Joined by Brandon Geyer, former big leaguer and founder of Major League Mindset. Brandon, man, appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
So let's talk about this, the Major League Mindset. I know you're doing some stuff with Prep Baseball on this. Take me inside the mission to rebuild minds and making players great at handling failure.
Yeah, that's a great way to frame it up right there. Really, since I retired, well, it started decades ago. So my first 3 years in high school, I below average player, no one talking to me, nothing. Unrecruited. Heading into senior year is like, okay, if I don't want my career to end, I need to train the mental side of the game. So I started to get into it. Senior year, I was like given this key that unlocked myself. And that was like, okay, wow. This is powerful. And so from that moment on, I continued to train it. Fast forward to 2020 when I retired from baseball, I started Major League Mindset, where kind of like what you just said, I have one sole mission: empower ball players with a mindset that enables them to consistently show up as the best version of them on and off the field. Off the field, a big part of that, because I really, really believe that the same mindset and identity and set routines that's going to help these players thrive off the field and skyrocket their well-being. It's the same exact mindset and identity, sense of self, and routines that are going to skyrocket their performance on the field. So I'm really, really all in with helping them do that. And you talked about great at failing. The best of the best are the best at failing, no matter what we do in life, but especially baseball. There's so much failure. How can you be not fragile and break easily, not resilient and bounce back quicker than most? How can you be anti-fragile and unbreakable? And the more you get kicked around, the stronger you get. When players are AAs, anti-fragile athletes, they're undeniable, they're unstoppable. Does that mean D1? Does that mean college? Does that mean minors and big leagues? Who knows? But what it does mean, they're finding out how good they can be. They're tapping in, they're getting in, and chipping away to get it to their masterpiece. And then whatever that means for them, who knows? It's out of their hands, but they're giving themselves the best shot to find out how good they can be as a player and as a person. So
I know you're doing speaking engagements and doing that in conjunction with Prep Baseball. People can go to BrandonGeyer.com, though. You have 3 different programs: an 8-week training program for both players and teams, the Fearless Hitting program, Major League Parents as well. We're in an elevated atmosphere here. Players are coming here with the intent of trying to get and become a Division I player. There's all these hundreds of college scouts here. You played in a World Series, so truly understanding all of that, what's the message in the process in your program in terms of players trying to be their best in those big moments without them letting them kind of consume them?
Great call. So it really, what I think it comes down to is self-awareness first. 2 things. Become the world's greatest expert on one subject, yourself. Get to know yourself really well. 2 things when it comes to self-awareness. Who are you at your best? We name that identity on and off the field, 2 different identities. What is it you do that leads to that best version of you showing up? Then it's simple. Not easy, it's simple. Do more of that, do less of the other stuff. Once you realize this checklist for success and simplify everything when it comes to self-development and you becoming the best version of you as a player and person, what do you do? Let's do that more. Let's have the discipline to do it, especially if we don't feel like doing it. And then what happens? You're more confident than ever. You play free and loose on a consistent basis. Doesn't guarantee success, but it guarantees you're giving yourself the best shot. And as athletes, all we can do is try to increase our odds. And as we continue to climb the levels, the talent gap is shrinking. The competition is way better. There's not a lot of low-hanging fruit. It's what are you doing? Everyone's working hard. Everyone has technology. Everyone's doing that. What are you doing that other people are not doing? A lot of it's the mental side. I would argue 98% of high school athletes have never intentionally trained their mind. We know the game's 90% mental, at least. As you go up the levels, I would say it's 95, closer to 100. So then, like the seminars I'm giving here, I start off the talks with this. It's 90% mental, at least. What percentage of the time do you train that side of the game? What do you think they say?
Next to nothing. Yeah.
0 to 5%. And that was me my first 3 years in high school. That's the majority. So then you get the results that the majority of the people get. You get whatever everyone else gets. Well, let's be a 1%er. Let's be not normal in a good way. Let's do what others aren't doing. That's low-hanging fruit, whether it's your breath, whether it's meditation, whether it's you just having this great self-awareness of, I know I'm going on and on, stop me. I could go on and on about this, but I'm getting to the answer of your question. So in those big moments, I wanted to set that story about getting to know yourself well. That's important in these moments because when we are out of our comfort zone in big moments such as me walking out on deck, Game 7, bottom of the 8th, 2 outs of the World Series in 2016. I'm about to face Aroldis Chapman, biggest at-bat of my life. I can predict the high arousal in my body, the fear, the anxiety. I know that's coming. We call it the best and the worst inside of us. We all, as humans, have a lot of good and a lot of bad inside of us. So it's recognizing who am I at my best, who am I at my worst, and then being mindful. It's a two-step process. At these events, when I'm speaking, I'm saying, I could talk to you guys for 10 hours today. We could boil it all down to be mindful when that worst version of you's taking control. Take control of your breath, of your focus, of your self-talk, and I call it close the gap. You're capable of this. You're actually being this. Close that gap so there's no room for that fear, anxiety, worry, doubt, stress to take over. Once again, be mindful when the not-so-good version's taking control. Do something about it. Use a mental tool. When we all have mental tools to change our mental state, these players, it's like they have this cheat code that 98% of other players don't have. Oh, I'm not feeling confident. A lot of self-doubt. I have fear, anxiety. Oh, okay. And we name it the best and worst. We give them names. Kobe Bryant was the Black Mamba when he played. The best of the best have alter egos. They do. For me, the worst, I named it a sheep. The best, I have a big lion tattoo. I named it a hungry lion. I'm stepping out on deck. I notice the sheep, the fearful, the anxiety, all of that worry version of me that we all have. That's trying to take it, Baron, as big as the bat of your life. Don't mess up. Don't strike out. Everyone, millions are watching. I said, no. I had a flip the switch routine. I basically take a deep breath. Imagine flipping a light switch, becoming the hungry lion and eating the sheep. So I'm on deck. I'm acting like I'm in the box. All I'm doing is taking control of my self-talk. Because in the moment, if we're not careful in big moments, our self-talk's going to direct our focus to what we hope doesn't happen. Hope I don't strike out here. Hope I don't look bad. Just put it in play. Don't strike out. Then that stuff's going to happen. But if you take control of your self-talk and you feed the best, remember, feed the lion, starve the sheep. With your self-talk, you're going to be focused on what you want to execute. It's going to increase your odds for success. Not going to guarantee anything, except you're putting yourself in a better position to succeed. If it guaranteed success, I wouldn't be here talking to you. I'd still be playing. But it just increases your odds. And as players, once again, for the second time, that's all we can ask for. We're increasing our odds. We're taking control. I tell players all the time, the most important time of the game. I ask players at these seminars that I'm hosting, no one can guess it, right? Oh, before the game, after the game. No, those are important. Most important time of the game, the time in between pitches. Are you dominating? Are you winning that time? If, say, you're a hitter, you're 0 for your last 12. You're 0 for 2 to start that game. There's 2 strikeouts. You're tense, you're tight, your self-talk, your focus is bad, you're not in control of your breath. The spiral started and you're just out of control. That pitcher is a ninja with the mental game. He's so locked in and focused on what he wants to execute. He knows he's better than you. His self-talk is directing his focus to exactly what he wants to do. He's in complete control. I ask players, who has a better chance to win in that pitch right there? Pitcher, obviously. So we got to know that if we want to, people say all the time, win every pitch. The only way you win every pitch is if you dominate the time in between pitches. The 10 to 15 seconds in between pitches are more important than the pitch itself. So you got to win that time. I know this is a long answer to your short question, but when we feel that fear, that anxiety, high pressure moments, realize which version's in control. If the not so good one is, use a mental tool in the moment, and that's really what I do. Give players mental tools to feed the best within them.
Obviously, people can go to BrandonGuyer.com. You've got the 8-week training program for players and teams. Again, the Fearless Hitting program, the Major League Parents. We're talking a lot about the individual, what an individual could do. I'm interested in the community, though, the community around a player. When you think about when you're working with a team, when you're working with the Major League Parent, what can people do from a community aspect to build up these situations where people can, have that strong mental approach to their game?
Yeah, no, great question. Very important. I was very lucky and blessed growing up with my father. I felt no pressure. I never was dreading the car ride home. I might have been 0 for 4, had a bad game. It's not like, why'd you swing at that? Why'd you do this? I think the number one thing, and I have 3 young kids at home, number one thing I try to do, did you play your best? Did you control the controllables? Your effort, your attitude, how you were as a teammate, a leader, your response to adversity. If my kids or the kids I coach don't do that well, then they know I'll get upset. If they make an error, if they strike out, I don't care. As long as they're controlling what's in their control. So to answer your question, I think that's what we need to emphasize. Do the best you can with what's in your control. If you don't have success, you did the best you could. There's no regret. But there's too much at the younger ages, pressure, win. Well, you know what? You win more, you get the results that you're not attached to more when you're so obsessed with the controllables. And then you have more fun and you play free and loose, and that's why the results come as a byproduct. So I think, actually, I know that's what we got to do, is emphasize the controllables. Don't just say it. It's simple to say it, man. It's another thing to practice it like a warrior. Things don't go my way. I'm going to have responsibility. Responsibility. I have the power and the ability to respond to this like the best version of me would. I'm not going to be perfect with it, but what if you can be more and more consistent? Well, then you're putting yourself in a better position to succeed. You're helping others do the same too. So for coaches, the great John Wooden said, your own example counts most. The greatest coach of all time. So me as a coach, I travel around, all I do is preach control the controllables, all this stuff. If me as a coach, if I don't do that, why would a player listen to me? So I think as coaches, we need to be relentless with that, because players are looking at us. If we're going crazy about an umpire call, we can't, well then why can't the player? He sees you do it, and I could go on and on, but to answer your question, I think that's everything. Put the emphasis on that. The players will feel less pressure, less stress, less anxiety, less fear, and they're going to play better ultimately.
What was the responsibility like in 2015 and 16 when you hit a combined 55 times in those two seasons? Led the majors in both those years and hit by pitches. Yeah. Number one, how did you kind of handle that in staying within your game? And secondly, what did David Price have against you? Because he hit you 5 times.
Funny about that. If you look, it almost looks like my arm was in the strike zone. So I think he was mad. He gets mad about that. But so for me, when it comes to getting hit, that's how I start off these talks I give on the mental and physical side. Players, I've experienced and dealt with anything you ever have or inevitably will. Mentally, fear, worry, doubt, stress, all performance anxiety. I've dealt with it all. Dealt with the yips at one point in my career when I came back from finger injury. 2 Tommy Johns. So mental side, dealt with it all. Physically, all-time leader in hit by pitches per plate appearance in Major League Baseball history. I had the nickname La Piñata. Never went up there looking to get hit, but I got hit a lot. It was a combination of things, Corey. When I would stride, my front foot would go towards the plate. A lot of lefties would like to pitch me in. They didn't want me to get extended. But I think the most important part, I wired myself not to move. I wired myself to look at it. This is a single. My on-base percentage is going up. I'm getting on base for people to drive me in. Who cares if I get hit? Especially if I'm down 1-2 to Chris Sale or David Price. Now, I'm not going to try to, but if they want to come in and they miss a little bit, I looked at it like it was a weapon. Once again, I'm never consciously up there thinking get hit. And I never wore any padding. No shin guard, no nothing. It was just one of those things where I used it as a weapon. I wired myself not to be afraid of getting hit. I know that's a big thing for young players. That's why I created a program that, since I retired, a lot of players are reaching out, and parents, my son quit. He couldn't get over the fear of getting hit. It's hard to hear and see, and it's a real thing. But the cool thing is we all have the gift of growth. We all have the gift of change, of adaptability. We can train our mind just like our body, because we all have the same gift, every human. So if you train it, you can get over that. That's the beautiful thing. Whether it's fear, whether it's having set routines to handle high pressure moments, all that stuff. You can train it and get over it. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, you talk about it from the hitting standpoint, but as coaching myself, I can't tell you how many times I've had a pitcher who, during warm-ups, or, during a practice, is a completely different pitcher than in a game because he's so worried about hitting somebody. When you try to run at that velo, it's like that's the other side of it. Like somebody may be scared to get hit by the pitch, but the pitcher may really not have that ability to cut loose like he would because he doesn't even have that side of it.
Yeah. So translating practice into games is one of the biggest things for all players. I remember those first 3 years in high school. I can show out and practice, do all this, I'm free and loose, but game time, it's like I'm a different player.
Yep.
What I think for a lot of players, they let things happen by chance, not by choice. They don't have a set pre-pitch routine that they're doing. So that last thought, Derek Jeter says, the last thing you think is the first thing you do. On a pre-pitch routine, the very last thing we think is the most important part of it. Yeah, holding your bat up or whatever, looking at a focal point, taking a deep breath to get into the present moment, very important. The final thought, though, is everything, because it's going to lead to you, once again, your focus being on what I want to execute or what I hope I don't do. Don't hit this batter. No, I'm throwing it through the catcher's face mask, top of the zone. Totally different mindsets there. Our focus determines our future. So if we're focused, we have a set pre-pitch routine, we are taking control of our self-talk, feeding the best, well, then we're not going to be thinking about hitting the hitter. Now, is this overnight? No, you got to wire your brain. And then before you know it, it's unconscious. It's just autopilot. You have your pre-pitch routine, and you don't even think about the hitter in the box, honestly. You just think about the glove and what you want to execute.
Brandon Geyer looking to unlock the part of the game that everybody needs to get over the top. So make sure you head to BrandonGeyer.com. Brandon, man, appreciate it. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, thank you, Corey.